Hello guys, welcome to Online Web Tutor. I am Sanjay. We are learning Laravel 8 framework tutorial. This is our part number 80. Inside this video, we will discuss the concept of anonymous global scope in Laravel model. Now if I back to editor, in the last video, we had discussed the complete concept of global scope inside model, where we had seen that how can we create, how to use inside model and inside controller as well. And one more thing, we had also seen the difference between the local scope as well as the global scope. Now this time we will discuss anonymous global scope. So if I back to the documentation of Laravel, click here, go inside this eloquent ORM, right here click inside this getting started. Here we have a section of query scopes. So I will click on that, and inside this documentation here we have anonymous global scope. So simply to create an anonymous global scope, this is the model what it has taken as user model, but in our case we have device.php. It means we have device model. Now simply inside this model, in the last video as well, we had used this static booted method. Now if I back to editor, go inside this device.php, which is a model, and inside here we have a static booted method, and here inside this static keyword add global scope, and inside this method actually we are passing an instance of this status scope class, and this is the class actually we had created inside last video. But in this case we are going to create anonymous global scope, so we don't need that. So simply I will comment, go inside this documentation, simply copy all these lines from here. We need to write all these lines inside booted method, and this booted method exists inside this model. So go here, simply I will pasting it here. Now to use this builder, we need to import a class, means from eliminate, database and eloquent. Otherwise it will be like if we remove that, let's remove that, as we are getting the red color. So before using this builder, first we need to import that. So let's say builder, and it is coming from eliminate, database, eloquent and builder. After that, now next we need to pass the condition, and one more thing, that the syntax will be same like static add global scope here, but this time here we have creating an instance, but here as the first value we are passing our anonymous global scope name. So let's say that this is for the status. We are using this anonymous callback function. Now here inside this where method, let's say status equals to 1. We are adding a condition. Now simply we had done. Now save all these changes, go inside this sample controller, and what I will do, let's say devices equals to device model, and we will use all methods. So echo pre tag, and if I write print r, let's say devices, save all these changes. Now in the last video as well, we had seen that when we write such type of syntax or such type of query, so automatically global scope will be applied with this syntax. So behind the scene it has generated a query called select all from devices table where status equals to 1, because this time we had used this static booted method, and here we had defined an anonymous global scope. In a moment we will understand that what is the use of this status here. It's a name of anonymous like global scope. So save all these changes. Automatically it has picked the condition called status equals to 1. So go here, and if I type the route to open that method, list active devices. Now inside this list we have 0 index, first index, second index, third index. So total 4 rows we are getting inside this list. If I back to table, so total 4 rows we have inside this table whose status equals to 1. It means when we had added this anonymous global scope inside this booted method, then automatically it has attached a condition called status equals to 1 while selecting all the data from table. Now in the last video, Also we had seen a concept that in some cases, if we don't want to apply this global scope inside this query, so how can we remove that? So simply, if I go to documentation, the same method we will use called without global scope, but this time we are not passing any class. Instead, we have created an anonymous global scope. So inside that case, simply we need to pass the name here. So what I will do, if I copy this syntax, copy that, go inside editor, pasting it here, and one more thing, while using this method we need to use get method, and this is inside this case ancient is an example, but in our case it is a status, so I am copying this name and pasting it here. So simply by the help of this line we are telling this model that okay, we have this global scope defined here, but for this query we don't need actually to add this condition here. So simply now after adding that, it will go and pick all the data from devices table. So behind the scene the query will be generated called select star from devices. There is no condition called status equals to 1. So if I save all these changes, go and reload this page, now we will get from 0 index to our 5th number index. It means total 6 rows we are getting inside this list. Now if we count 2 rows of 0 and 4 rows of status 1, total 6 rows we have. Now what is the difference between a class-based global scope as well as anonymous global scope? Class-based global scope means that we have a class inside a folder. The same condition what we had done here, we had written inside this apply method, but this time when we use anonymous global scope, simply we can define inside this model as well. After adding these pieces of code, simply we can use inside any of the controller. So this is all about the concept guys about anonymous global scope. So for this video session guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.